Hello and welcome to the Tough Girl Podcast, a 3-time award-winning show that aims to motivate and inspire you while increasing the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. If you're passionate about adventure, challenge and learning from women who have overcome obstacles and achieved remarkable things, then this is the podcast for you. Every Tuesday at 7 a.m, new episodes go live featuring incredible women who share their stories, insights and tips to help you achieve your dreams and goals. You can support the Tough Girl mission by signing up as a patron. Visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Keep listening until the very end as I share more information about what's going on with me with Tough Girl Challenges, give shout outs and recommend other Tough Girl Podcast episodes. More information can be found at toughgirlchallenges.com.
My name's Fredi Chohan. I'm based in Nottingham, in the middle of the country, and I have always been into sport, mainly team sports. Grew up playing hockey, football, cricket with my brothers, and carried on playing hockey and football in adulthood. And then I just got into enjoying the countryside and going out for little walks with my friends, and then longer walks with my friends who were more confident. And then I just wanted to do something, a bit of a challenge for myself, really, hence doing the Pennine Way.
And we are going to be talking about the Pennine Way because what a challenge it was. It was also filmed as well. So we'll be talking all about that. But you said you've always been, sort of into your sports, playing hockey and football, and you carried that into adulthood, which I always think is interesting because I think sometimes a lot of people when they're sporty, when they're younger, as they get older, they sort of end up dropping out, especially of team sports. How was it that you continued to play team sports?
I was quite a standard in hockey. So then I joined a club. I was spotted at school, and a teacher from the opposing school came up to me at the end and said, "You've got some real talent. If I was you, I would join a club," which was great because it was the opposition PE teacher came up and said that. So I did join a hockey club, and then people I know were playing cricket. I grew up with cricket in my family, being Asian. Everybody loves cricket. That's all they talk about is cricket. And so I started playing cricket as well. And you have to bear in mind, I've got brothers and all my cousins were male. So I just joined in with them. So that's how I and I got very competitive with my brothers who were all older than me. All my cousins were older than me, but I just was constantly trying to compete with them. So that's how I sort of kept in sport. And then I went and did my degree, and there was a women's football team. Football wasn't big when I was growing up for women, but there was a local knock-around in the local park. So I joined that. Used to go on a Sunday afternoon. So that was nice. And it was more of a socialising thing than anything else.
It sounds as though you weren't sort of treated any differently by your family for being a girl.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't treated any differently than my brothers in the sporting sense. No.
Well, I think that's so lovely because I think sometimes there's almost like assumptions, especially if you're from like an Asian background, that girls aren't encouraged to be sporty and to get outside and to be fit and active.
Absolutely. I mean, during my time, that is what was happening. And some sort of extended family members were saying, "Oh, why is she doing that? You should teach her this and you should teach her that," which was the conventional girl stuff that I should be doing, like sewing and cooking. And it's like, well, no, yeah, I'll do that as well, but I'm not giving up this. But now I look at my granddaughter and she's playing cricket, she's playing hockey, and it's just, there is no kind of, oh, she's a girl, she should be doing that. It's just what she's done. I see me in her a lot, and she's just out there, very competitive, very similar. And I think good for her that she's just doing it, and no one's batting an eyelid now. Yeah. So that's good.
You're a part of that reason why, because you sort of going out there and playing hockey and cricket and football.
Mm.
It's just sort of, it's being that role model and just sort of showing people, hey, this is okay. This is normal. Like this is enjoyable. This is fun for girls to be doing this. Girls should be doing this.
Absolutely. It's sort of normalizing it. It's just normal behavior, and this is what we do, and not make an issue out of it. Still, we hear ridiculous comments about women's football and most women's sport, and you think, come on, we're beyond that now. It is getting better, and it's language and teaching people. And I mean, I was a coach, football coach, and I worked with the under sevens, and it was great because boys and girls were playing, and at that age, they just want to play football. They just want to play football. And it didn't matter who they were playing with; they just wanted to play, and that's what I liked about it. The mixed groups and children playing. So when it gets sort of to the academy level, it's like kids they stop playing and they're taught what they should be doing. It's an interesting one, actually. But that's another podcast altogether.
One of the things you mentioned was about the Pennine Way. I just want to take you back to when you start thinking about taking this on as a challenge. Like, when did you hear about the Pennine Way? When did you start thinking, ooh, I want to take on this as a walk. This would be fun.
It kind of happened when I was a bit of a crossroads in my life. I'd lost my mother not long. I lost my mother in 2016, and I was sort of in a job. I was a plumber, gas engineer, and I just didn't want to do that. I lost my sort of motivation in that. I was working in a job, but it was 0-hour contracts, and it was just like, what am I doing with my life? Is this it? Working on 0-hour contracts and, not really having any direction. And then a friend of mine said, I think you need an adventure. And it's like, well, why don't you you like walking, why don't you do a long walk? And I was like, what? And she went, the Pennine Way. And I said, well, where's that? And she said, it starts from Edale and goes up to the borders of Scotland. And I said, oh, that sounds good. So I looked into it a bit. And I thought, oh, well, I live in the middle of the country, and this would be a real good thing to do. And then someone had told me about the Adventure Queen's grant and said, look, you should apply for it. So I did, and I was successful. So that's how I was able to do it, because there was no way I could afford it at that time on a 0-hour contract, not knowing what days I was going to work. And I applied for a grant and I was successful. So then I started training and going for it. And then things snowballed. Like I met the filmmaker and I met people at Sprayway, and things sort of just started snowballing. And I just thought, well, this is meant to be. So that's how it happened.
How old were you at that point?
54, was I? I think I was 54, coming on to 55. You kind of lose, what was it, 54, 53, 55? Anybody who reaches that age kind of forgets roughly.
It's happening to me now. It just sort of, I'm like 42, 43, 41. I mean, so you it starts merging.
Yes. But I think I had planned to finish on my 55th birthday. I'm pretty sure that's what I planned to do, but obviously I wasn't able to do that because of reasons that I had to put the walk on hold. So I did most of it, but I was 2 days short, and then I had to go back and do that again.
So let's just take it back a step. The Adventure Queens grant. Do you just want to share what the Adventure Queens are and the grant, and sort of, if you can, sort of remember what you sort of said in the grant and your reasons why you wanted to take on this adventure?
Yeah, it was set up by Anna McNuff and Emma Frampton, I think, and they started it. They're adventurous, and I met Anna when she was running through Nottingham, and she actually mentioned the Adventure Queen. She said, you should apply for it. She's the one who actually suggested I applied for it, and I was sort of, she was running the whole of Britain. She was doing a marathon every day. And I thought, well, I couldn't do an adventure like that. And she said, well, your adventure would be very different to my adventure. So that's how it kind of, and she was saying, you should have really applied. So that's how I went. And if I remember rightly, it was, you got £500 towards doing the adventure that you chose. And also they were in partnership and you got some trainers and a rucksack. So yeah, so it kind of started me off, really. It started me off. There were 3 people who applied at the same year, but you have to remember it was a year, we were the ones that got it in COVID year, where you couldn't go out, you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. So we all put it on hold for a year when we could go and do adventures. So it was put back a year.
With the adventure of the Pennine Way, obviously, you're fit, you're sporty, you have been going on walks, but had you ever done a walk or a challenge like this, or hiking, walking every day, carrying a backpack,
No,
camping, etc.?
not at all. Not at all. I hadn't done anything like that. And I kind of thought, because I was relatively, I've got asthma, but one of the reasons I did go walking was it actually helped my asthma to do exercise, but never a long hike. Maybe a weekend hike, yes, with friends, where you stop and just sort of have cups of tea and cake, and then you stop for lunch, and then you finish early because you can't be bothered to go any further. But nothing like this where you had to get to certain places because those places were booked. So it didn't matter if I had booked a day that I was going to walk 15 miles. I was going to work 15 miles that day, and there was no choice of, well, maybe only do 8 today. So yes, I'd not done anything like this.
So how did you go about gaining the skills, starting training? Were you able to create your own training plan? Did you get outside help? Because taking on a challenge like this, it sounds like, it's outside of your comfort zone. You're 50 plus, especially the more women I speak to, like a lot of women will start thinking, well, I can't do that. I don't even like saying it, like I'm too old. It's like, no, you're not too old. You're not too old. But I imagine there was maybe a lot of maybe fears or concerns. Talk us through that sort of, learning the new skills, sorting out the training. What was that like?
Because my job was so active at the time, I was doing a lot of work with young people, and we were doing a lot of active work. And then I started walking to work a lot. So I started incorporating that in my day. And I spoke to a lot of people. I was arranging to go out for walks with a lot of people and talking to a lot of experienced people of what I should do and how I should do it. The only thing that I didn't bargain for is just how hard the Pennine Way is. Because I did it the other way round. Sorry, I must bring that up. I did it the other way round. Rather than starting from Edale, I started from Kirk Yetholm. So I walked from the north down to the south, if you like, whereas it's usual to walk from the south to the north. My reasoning for that at the time was, well, when I finish, I'd like to see a lot of people I know and people who can join me near the end. And because I was finishing on my birthday originally, I thought it would be nice to start from the north, so to speak, walking home with living in Nottingham. So it'd be easy to get home. That was my logic. That's how I wanted to do it. But the first 3 days, for many, it's the last days, is really hard because you've got no shelter or anything. And it was wet and it rained constantly. You got no shelter whatsoever. And there's very limited places you can stay at the end or the start for me. So you have to. And by day 2, I thought, oh, can you do this? Is this what it's going to be like? But once you get your rhythm and you start pacing yourself, now I've always said to people, I'm a very slow walker in comparison to a lot of people. I walk very slowly. But for me, I just wanted to see the beauty. Now, there wasn't much to see in the rain, but to be out there and feeling like, wow, this is an achievement. So, yes, it was hard. It was merciful at times. But when you finish at the end of the day and you just look at the map, how far you've walked and where you've been, it was just amazing.
I think people can really underestimate how demoralizing being in the wet and the rain and there not being any shelter, which means that you can't stop. Or for me, certainly, when it's raining, I can't stop because I just get too cold and I got to just keep walking all day. And like your thoughts can go to like, can I do this? So how did you mentioned that, getting into your rhythm and that sort of obviously helped. But what were the other things that helped you sort of persevere, especially at the start when it is hard? You are wet, it is raining, you're having these like, can I do it types of thoughts? What helped you sort of persevere through?
Well, a combination. I was walking the first bit with a friend, and when you've got somebody with you, you keep each other going. And also, it was being filmed as well, so you feel like you have to keep walking. But it was sort of like, well, this is an opportunity that's been given to me without the financial assistance that I got, not only just from Adventure Queens, but also Sprayway. It was just like, had this opportunity. I'm going to take this opportunity. So that's what really kept me going. And I had trained, but looking back, because I wasn't an experienced walker, I took everything in my rucksack. Ridiculous. It was just absolutely ridiculous, the amount of stuff. But people say that's what everybody does when they start. They just pack them. But if I'm going to give any advice to anybody, it's like, really take the bare minimum. Do not take everything. And if you haven't got it, you haven't got it. It's just take the essentials, but just leave a lot of things out, really.
So I have to ask you, what is the ridiculous stuff that you were carrying?
I just took things, I don't know, I took extra clothes, loads of clothes. I took, I don't know what you call them. It's like what you use to massage your legs when they're a bit tight. Took that, and that was quite heavy. And then I took, I can't remember, but I remember a friend of mine saying, loads of bandages. That I didn't really need that amount of bandages. A power bank, but not one power bank, 2 power banks. It's just why? Just take one. It works fine. You're all right. And I remember a friend of mine and he was like, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. And so I'm taking it home. You don't need this. And loads of stuff, loads of silly little gadgets that I don't need really. And I was also carrying a little camera that recorded. Now I had to carry that for the filming of it when the filmmakers weren't with me. But that was fine. But that was of quite a lot of weight as well, because there was a little tripod with it as well. I was thinking, oh, do I really need this? And then I got rid of the tripod. I don't need this. So gradually, as I went further down, I more or less had an empty bag with me.
When you do carry like a pack and you're doing it on the road, it becomes very frustrating when you're like, especially when you're carrying something and you don't use it and it's just there, like weighing a ton. And then, but the problem is that sometimes I just sometimes take it too far where I'm literally like really feral. Like generally I don't take any spare clothing. I have well, to be honest, I sleep in my walking clothes. So I have like one dry item and that's like my dry clothes, which I would like sleep in. But normally I'd still get into the tent. And if my bottom half's like slightly damp, I just get into my sleeping bag and like dry them out and stuff. So I can see how easy it is initially when you start to be like, well, actually I better take that. And actually it's a really good idea to have that tool to like massage your legs. So that would probably be really helpful. And then you get to the point where you realize, actually, no, you're too tired at the end of the day to do any of that type of stuff. You talked about, the challenge being filmed. How did that work and how was that experience?
Yeah, the film was filmed by Fredi Chohan, and he contacted me and he said, look, I understand you've got this. And And originally he wanted to film me because I was a football coach. But then it kind of, after a few chats with him, it kind of became like, I'd like to follow you on the Pennine Way, which I was like, yeah, whatever, because he was going on holiday and I thought it would be somebody, to be honest, I thought it was just somebody who said, yeah, it'll be a good idea, because over my life, because I was a gas engineer and a football coach, loads of people have said, oh, I'd like to talk to you about that. And we'd like to do a bit of a documentary about it. And I've said, yeah, and not heard from them again. So I thought, yeah, whatever, Fritz. Yeah. Give me a shout when you're back from holiday. And, which he did to my surprise. And then he just said he wanted to film this and it'd be great. And I thought, yeah, actually, why not? We come from similar backgrounds. So I just thought, well, yeah. And I'm glad he did, actually. He did it very sensitively. There were some difficult parts of filming within the film, and he dealt with it very sensitively.
What were the difficult parts of filming?
There was two, actually, which was one where I fell quite badly. And I just thought, oh, it was a day that it was like up and down the hills. And then when I was on the flat, I fell on the road. I just fell. It's just like, yeah, which I've since found out that happens quite a lot. I hurt myself quite badly, but the way Fritz filmed it was very sensitively. He didn't see me fall, but he saw me trying to get up, and he's talked to me about this, and he said, like, because by then we were, I would say we were friends, and he was like, say, well, shall I be a friend or shall I record it and be a filmmaker? And he chose to record it as a filmmaker, but he did it very sensitively. And the hardest bit in the film, and it still gets to me, don't think I'll ever get over it, is 2 days before the end, I got a phone call from home to say my brother was ill and he was in hospital, and that he had asked to see me, and actually he was dying, which came as such a shock to me, you know, that he was in hospital and he was actually, I had to go back home if I wanted to say my goodbyes, and which I did. And that was filmed. That was very difficult because on that day, the filmmakers were not with me. Fritz was not with me when I was walking the day that I got the news. I got it at 2:00 in the morning. And after I'd made a decision that I wasn't going to walk and I was going to go back to Nottingham to see my brother, I rang Fritz to say, look, this is what's happened and I'm going to stop. He was on his way somewhere else to film somebody else, but he was 20 minutes away from me. And he was saying, look, can I film this bit? Because otherwise there'll be a gap and people won't know why there's been a gap. And I was like, no, I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. But the way Fritz talked to me about it, I said, oh, okay. And it was very much on my terms, sort of like, yeah, okay, let's do this. We did it. And he captured that very beautifully and turned the camera off when I asked him to turn it off. And it just captured that. Having seen the film several times, that bit, you know, will never get easy for me. But it's a memory you don't always plan things. You can't always plan things. Life takes over. And it was definitely the right decision for me to stop the Pennine Way at that point and then carry on at a later day, which I'm glad I did, because when I did do it again, I split the last 2 days into 3 days, and then several of my friends joined me. And because my adventure, I think I say this in the film, my adventure became their adventure because they supported me in the months after my brother's death and put me back together again and helped me get through that very difficult time.
Oh, Freddie, I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, oh, that's just...
Yes, it's a hard watch, that part of the film. It doesn't get any easier for me.
Yeah. What was it like sort of coming back to the trail? That must have been sort of a massive mix of emotions.
Yes, it was. It was coming back. I think I did it because initially my brother, he passed away in the September, and people were saying, look, you got to get back into it. And because I'm such a slow walker, I couldn't even put one foot in front of the other after my brother died. I couldn't go to work. I just couldn't cope with life at all. I've lost my rock. I lost my oldest brother who'd always been there for me. It was like, and then the nights were drawing in, we were getting into autumn, and I thought, well, it's taking me all day sometimes to walk 8 miles. And how am I going to do the last bit? This is dangerous for me. I'm not doing this. It's and mentally, I wasn't ready. I really wasn't. And then I kind of decided, talking to friends, that I was beginning to get ready. And people say, well, we'll come with you. Oh, we'll come with you. So all of a sudden, these people who'd walked with me at certain parts of the Pennine Way all said, well, we'll come to the end. So it felt kind of, yeah, this has been a journey, because the film is called The Pennine Way, Step by Step, Side by Side. And that's how it felt. That's how it felt, really. It was like one step at a time, and side by side were my friends. So, yeah. So it was mixed emotion, but I'm glad I had my friends to see me through that time.
What was the sort of the final day like? Like, massive shout out to your friends for being there and for walking with you. Like, the film says, step by step, side by side. Did you feel as though it was, I suppose, not like closing another chapter, but yeah, what was going through your head sort of finishing the walk?
Yeah. I mean, that's not too far wrong, really. It was a bit like closing a chapter. It was a bit sort of, I had unfinished business with the Pennine Way. I just felt it was so beautiful. Parts of the Pennine Way is absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. And I just felt, I don't know, I felt really connected. I was so close from finishing, but not close enough. I was beginning to get a few injuries first time round. So they had all healed up. So I was fine and I was able to walk again properly. I didn't have the blisters like I had from the first one. It was just a real, people wanted to be there, not from themselves, but to make sure that they did it with me. And I just felt very loved, very cared for, and very supported. So I had a real kind of feeling of love and support from everybody. So that's how I felt.
When you look back over the walk, and not necessarily when you rewatch the film, but when you just get those, those flashes of memory, what are some of the highlights for you, or what are some of those moments that really, stand out, that sort of, I don't know, just makes you feel really proud and really happy that you decided on this challenge, applied for the grant, did the training, got out there, and sort of went on your first multi-day hiking adventure?
I mean, a few people I know who are walkers, when I told them I was doing the Pennine Way, they were saying, Freddie, you're doing the Pennine Way? It's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, Freddie, don't you think you should do a much easier one first? And I sort of said, no, I'll be okay. But actually, I understood what they said when I started it. But to do the Pennine Way is such an achievement. It's not forgiving. It does not forgive. And it gets harder. And some days it's so hard. But one thing that keeps me going is like looking back at the films. I had some very close friends who came to that walk with me, did sections with me on that walk. All the people who walk with me are very old friends of mine from when I did my degree, and I'm still in touch with them, and it was just, and my Yorkshire friends. So that's really lovely when I see parts of Yorkshire in the film, because that's like my second home, and I do miss Yorkshire tremendously. Seeing some photos that people took, and it's just beautiful. We do live in a beautiful country, and it needs to be shared with everybody. Because I was hesitant being an Asian woman walking on my own, because you get racism in the city. I mean, we've seen in recent events what have happened, and it's frightening. It's frightening to be on your own walking, but to be able to do that both on your own and with friends, it was great.
What advice would you like to share but for Asian women particularly as well, who are sort of a little bit scared, a little bit apprehensive about taking on sort of like a solo adventure or solo challenge? What would you like to say?
I would say if you can do it, start small, baby steps, walk in familiar areas that you know. Because in lockdown, I was walking locally, and then I started running, and I got to keep my fitness up, and I was doing these virtual challenges. So I was doing that. So what I would say to anybody who is not confident outdoors is really take baby steps. It's not a race. It's really isn't a race. It's something that if you want to do it, do it. But always think about your safety. Always go out with different people. Just ring people and say, look, I'm doing this. Do you fancy coming with me? Some people will say no. Some people say, yeah. Some people say, yeah, let's do it. So just find your group of people that you feel safe. Join a walking group. Set your own walking group up. It doesn't have to be far. You could go out for an hour a day. You could go out for half an hour a day. Just go out and enjoy.
Are you still walking now?
I am walking. I sort of like walk a lot in my job, but then I did go with a friend to Ibiza, of all places. My friend's really into bird watching, and she knew the island very well. And we went for some lovely walks in Ibiza. I am also planning to go up to Northumberland and do that part of Hadrian's Wall again. I've got friends who live nearby. And I do also like walking near water, which is very bizarre because I'm in landlocked Nottingham. But I do really enjoy walking near water. So I'm going to be doing that on the East Coast next month, actually. So that'd be nice. And just try to get as much. It's a difficult one. When you work, you don't get much time. And then when you don't work, other people are working, because I'm at that age now where a lot of my friends are retired and a lot of my friends are still working. It's an interesting age to be at. So, but I will carry on walking as much as I can.
How can people watch the movie, The Pennine Way?
It's going to be at some free festivals. I do know that Fritz is sorting that out, and I'm working with him to work that out, where it's going to be showing. It's also on YouTube now. You can find it on YouTube. If you just put in The Pennine Way, it comes up. So, that's how you can watch it. There were two versions of it. There was a 30-minute version and a 45 minutes. But Fritz did say to me that he had decided that he was only showing the 45-minute one because that really captured, as he put it, that captured you, Fredi, the sort of person you are. So that is the one that's on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll make sure I find the link to YouTube so people can go and watch the film, which will be amazing. And Fredi, I don't think you're that active on social media, but would you like to share your social media handle?
Yes, you see, this is all new to me, social media handles. I didn't even know what that meant a few years ago. And I'm pretty sure it's F. Chohan, spelled Chohan 66. So I'm pretty sure that's my handle.
It is your handle. You got
is
it
it
right.
My handle?
It is your handle. It is your handle. So
Yeah, you.
I will add the hand. I will add the handle. I will add the links to your social media, to the Adventure Queens,
Yeah,
to Frit, and to the film as well, so that people can connect with everything that you've talked about today.
that's great. I'm glad. I'm glad you're doing that because if anybody knows me, social media is very new to me.
I would love for you to have the final words of advice for other women out there who do want to take on a new challenge, get outside their comfort zone. And maybe they just feel like, especially if they're over the age of 50, they might be thinking, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But, what advice would you like to share? And you can take that in any direction that you would like, but please don't say just do it.
Age, it's a number. Make it your adventure. Okay. Your adventure is going to be the different to the next person to you. If you want to go out for 5 minutes every day, that's great. If you want to go out for 5 minutes every other day, that's great. If you want to go out and spend an hour every day, that's great. If you want to plan something like I planned, a long hike, just make it your adventure and just go with how it feels right with you. Loads of people will give advice. It's like take people's advice, but at the end of the day, you know what you can manage with your own health, your own personal commitments, whether that's family commitments. When you get to in your mid 50s, 50 plus, you're in between, like you may still be looking after the children, you may be looking after an aging parents. You're in sandwich between two situations, but just have some time for yourself and just get outdoors. Just enjoy. Listen to the birds singing. Listen to the trees rattling. Just look around you. That's all I've said.
Absolutely. Fredi, thank you so much for taking on this adventure, taking on this challenge. Thank you so much for sharing more of your story. It's been so inspiring. And I just wish you all the best with all your future walks and hikes.
Thank you. Thank you for your time as well. Thank you.
Hey, tribe, how you're doing? I hope you're all keeping super well. Do you know what I think is really cool? That you could be out there hiking at the moment, listening to the Tough Girl podcast. How epic is that? So my name is Sarah Williams. I'm the host of the Tough Girl podcast, and I like to hike a little bit. I've done some big trails, some little trails. I also like to put them on YouTube, and YouTube is where I suggest you go to watch Fredi's movie, Fredi and Frit's movie, step by step, side by side. The Pennine Way, step by step, side by side. It's just so beautiful. Fredi has done an amazing job, an incredible job with the hike, and just epic to watch it. Even though you have heard about it, it just adds another dimension being able to watch it. So do head to YouTube to watch that. I've included the link in the show notes, and if you want more information where the show notes will be found, you can visit toughgirlchallenges.com. Now, I have actually spoken to a lot of thru hikers and a lot of hikers on the podcast. I just want to give a couple of episodes to recommend that maybe you would like to listen to. So we've spoken with Christine Thru, who is a thru hiker and human rights activist from Norway. She's sharing adventures on her blog, Let's Trek It, to inspire others to undertake their own wilderness journeys. And she's actually off to America to hike the PCT. So please do go and give her a follow. She is hiking that in 2025, and she'll be sharing that on her blog, Let's Trek It, as well as on Instagram. We've spoken with Audrey Payne. She's a long-distance backpacker, writer, and nature nerd. She overcame a debilitating back injury to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail and recently published a memoir about it. Arletta Lan, aka Apple Pie, was the first woman to hike all 11 national scenic trails in the USA, 35,000 miles hiked. 35,000 miles hiked. Incredible. We've also spoken with Melissa Harlow, who's embracing life's adventures at 62, from sailing the Pacific Ocean to hiking the John Muir Trail. Now, I've also done 2 episodes related to my most recent biggest hike, which was hiking in New Zealand, the Te Araroa Trail. So there's one which is the planning and preparation for thru hiking the 3,000 kilometre Te Araroa Trail, ARAOA, in New Zealand, and then also there is my reflections episode, which is a long one. It's a good one, 2 hours long. Reflections and learnings from the 3,000 kilometer Te Aroa Trail, New Zealand. So well worth checking out. But if you go and visit toughgirlchallenges.com, there is a resources tab. And on there, you can scroll through the different types of adventures that you may like. So if it's ultra running, through hiking, ultra endurance challenges, if you're training for a triathlon, or if you're really interested in being a world traveler, or maybe you're going to become a mother and you're currently going through pregnancy at the moment, then there's specific episodes dedicated in each sort of section, and so you can just go through and find those episodes which are really relevant to you. Now, the one thing I would say is I do think all the episodes are relevant. You'll always be able to find one nugget of information, one piece of information that you'll be able to apply to your own life. Sometimes I think it's quite good to listen to something which you maybe think, well, I'm never going to row an ocean, so I'm not going to listen to any ocean rowing podcasts. You never know what you might learn from listening to sort of quite a random podcast episode. So that's my suggestion to you. Pick a random episode which you think, do you know what? This wouldn't normally interest me, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a listen. I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and do something new, because you never know what might happen after you listen to that amazing episode of the Tough Girl podcast. Thank you so much for all your incredible support. We have new episodes going live every Tuesday. You knew the answer to that. Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. UK time, with bonus episodes going live on a Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. I don't have any bonus episodes scheduled actually at the moment, but I might be able to squeeze one in. What am I up to? February, I'm actually having a bit of a health month at the moment. I'm on a bit of a health kick. So I am taking, I'm doing a lot of things really. I'm taking Zinzino, which is an omega-3. I am on the Hume app, HUML, which is how you can track like your muscle mass and all of things like that, which is pretty cool. I'm tracking my cryotherapies, my red light treatments. I'm also wearing a glucose monitor as well, which I think is going to be absolutely fascinating. I'm going to be sharing all on Instagram, so come and give me a follow at toughgirlchallenges.com. I'm also going to be sharing more about like my workouts and what that looks like. So there'll be quite a lot happening on Instagram, which will be fun. Next Tuesday, so February the 18th, we're going to be speaking to Sammy Sori, who is a multi-sport athlete. And then on the 25th of February, we're going to be speaking to Stephanie Boone, who is also another hiker. She's a UK hiker, and she's going to be talking more about turning 60, hiking the West Highland Way, and how hiking has helped her with her mental health. So many great episodes. Now, if you would like to pay it forward, I'd love for you to tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast. I'd love for you to leave a review. I'd love for you to sign up as a patron. If you're doing really well financially and you're in a position where you are able to support, then I'd love for you to visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl podcast, and you can sign up as a monthly patron. They do it in all currencies, or as an annual patron. And I always think it's the equivalent of like, if we met out, I'm sure you'd buy me a coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee, but I'm sure you'd buy me like a hot chocolate, or, you treat me to an ice cream, or, something like that. So almost think of it like that. But it really does help having this monthly support just to keep the running costs sort of like under control, and it sort of takes the pressure off me every month, having a regular source of income coming in. So that's Patreon, patreon.com. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.